Good day, colleagues. I guess we are ready to start with the program, but I think it will be proper if we can please just open our mics just for a minute and greet each other. Then we will start shortly after that. If you are comfortable doing so, please just open your mic and unmute and greet your fellow colleagues.
Morning, colleagues.
Good day, colleagues.
Good day, colleagues.
Morning, colleagues.
Morning,
Good day,
colleagues.
Good day, colleagues.
Good day,
Good day,
colleagues.
colleagues. Steve from Limpopo.
Good day.
Morning, colleagues.
All right. Thank you so much for that. I guess then we can start. And good afternoon once again. My name is Ntobeko Sikakane, and I am tasked with the responsibility to facilitate the proceedings for this event. And welcome to the Northwest Branch commemoration of Librarians Day for year 2023. In case you are wondering what to expect, there have been some minor changes on our program. This program is scheduled for 12:30 to 2 o'clock. However, there's been some changes in terms of names. You will be addressed by a couple of our seasoned librarians and also scholars in the LIS fraternity. I can just mention that towards the end of the interview, we will towards the end of the meeting, we will interview Ms. Dina Mashiane in the space of Dr. Siviwe, who is unfortunately unable to be with us today. So to start with the program for today, I would like to invite the Northwest Branch Chairperson, Mr. Martin Nokwane, to officially open this gathering and welcome us. And then shortly after that, we will be introducing the rest of the speakers. Thank you. Over to you, Martin.
Thank you, Chairperson, for the warm welcome. My name is Martin Nokwane. Good day, ladies and gentlemen. I am the LIASA Northwest Branch Chairperson, as indicated by the Program Director for the current period of 2021 to 2023. And it is my privilege and great pleasure on behalf of the LIASA Northwest Branch to welcome you here today. I welcome you all today to the celebration of South African Librarians Day. And this day is highly auspicious as we all have gathered here to honor the dedication and diligence of one of our own, telling a powerful story through a live interview. Before we begin and start with the proceedings, I would like to offer positive salutation to our esteemed guest, Ms. Mokhadi Senyolo, our LIASA National Secretary, Ms. Dina Mashiane. Your presence here at this event will not only inspire us all to be highly motivated, but also urge us all to do better for LIASA and the LIS sector at large. Just as you did, your achievements in the LIS sector are not unknown. I am confident that each person in the room is well aware of the hard work you have put up to reach where you presently stand. Thank you for being such encouraging figures and contributors. Additional gratitude to you for agreeing to be part of our important day. We look forward to learning from you through engagement such as this and make this day memorable. Secondly, I would like to extend my sincere gratitude to all my colleagues who were always more than ready to lend their support in making this event a success. It is not possible to take the names of all, so I want to thank everyone who contributed in one way or the other towards this event. It wouldn't have been possible without your support. Colleagues, librarianship is a notable profession that is a basic to the development of citizens and thus a nation. It speaks to the intrinsic requirement of building an informed and knowledgeable nation through equitable access to information. The growth and sustainability of the new democracy in South Africa is reliant on citizens who are knowledgeable and can make well-informed decisions about all aspects of their lives. Librarians have the inherent responsibility of knowing their community's information needs and making it accessible to them. They are committed to the development agenda of the country, bringing to life the fundamental right of citizens as enshrined in the Constitution of South Africa, the right for access to information. Therefore, it is with no fear and doubt to say librarians are very special people. They are the mind and soul of each and every library and information hub. They are the caregivers of the world of the mind, the nurturers of dreams, and the defenders of truth. Perhaps no other profession is so marked by singular generosity of its practitioners, librarians, and information workers. Therefore, colleagues, I invite you to please relax, focus, and prepare yourself to be challenged yet inspired. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you so much, Mr. Martin. That was the LIASA Provincial Chairperson for Northwest Branch, Mr. Martin Nokwane. Thank you so much for your encouraging, welcoming remarks. And thank you for reminding us that indeed we have a significant role in the society. Colleagues, in the interest of time, I would like to hand over to Ms. Maggie Melk Sindwa to cover her part as well. Thank you.
Morning, colleagues. Okay, I am here to introduce the speaker. The short bio for Ms. Mokhadi Rebecca Signolo, membership number 1647. Since 2012, Mrs. Mokhadi Rebecca Signolo currently works at the University of South Africa Library as a branch librarian. Previously, she worked at the faculty branch librarian, managing the Geomeds branch library at the University of Wits, and have held other various positions, including that of the education and training librarian and assistant arts librarian. Her employment with Wits began in 1994 when she was appointed as a librarian at the Wits Rural Facility, where she established several libraries in the Mpumalanga province for over 10 years before moving to Johannesburg. Ms. Signolo holds a Master's in Information Science from the University of South Africa, a Bachelor's of Information Science Honors from the University of Johannesburg, and the Bible degree from University of Limpopo. Ms. Signolo has been involved in various projects, both at work and the Library and Information Association of South Africa. She has facilitated several sessions and workshops at national conferences. She has presented posters at UNISA, LIASA, IFLA, ICDE, and the International Council of Distance Education conferences. She presented papers at the International Open Learning Conferences and at DIASA, NWU, and at the 5th South African National Resource Center. Ms. Signolo has been an affiliated member of LIASA since its inception in 1997 and has served as a representative council member of the association since 2004. She served on the National Executive Committee in several portfolios and is currently serving as National Secretary of LIASA for the second term. Ms. Signolo is one of the founder members of LIASA National Marketing and Advocacy Interest Group. She is the 2010 Gauteng South Branch Librarian of the Year. In 2010, she was awarded the LNTSA Leadership Award that gave her an opportunity to attend the IFLA conference in Sweden. Ms. Signolo has just been appointed to serve as a member of IFLA's Bibliographic Conceptual Models Review Group for the 2023 to 2027 term. She has the desire to learn more and continue to improve throughout her career. She has been involved in several teamwork projects and performed well in supporting roles within the team, as well as contributing ideas and taking the lead when necessary. I thank you, Chairperson. Thank you. Over to you, Mrs. Signolo.
Good afternoon. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, I'm going to try and share my screen as I speak to you, and we can just proceed from there. Can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Is it in slide mode or it's still on? Okay.
It's not on slide mode. Presenter mode.
Okay, I'm gonna try and do that. My computer is a bit slow, so you pardon me. And my voice as well has gone somewhere with the weather. So, but I hope you will be able to hear me this afternoon. Is that all set up now? Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And good day, colleagues. The Northwest branch of LIASA executive, the Northwest University Management, because I believe I was going to talk to the Northwest University Librarians, and the next day I was going to talk to the Northwest LIASA branch. But then I was so pleased when you say I can combine the two, and I hope I'll do justice in what you requested me to do, because the other one needed me to give you excuse me, the historical background of LIASA, and the other one needed me to talk more about advocacy and marketing. So I will try and put and combine the two. So for the sake of those who are using the data and whatever, allow me to switch off my video so that we are able to get one another. I was just putting it up so that you can see me, unless if you really want me to just continue with the video, I don't mind. Chairperson. So I'm going to take you through to LIASA as a SAQA professional body, a historical background. It started with the unification train, and this train that needed everybody, all the different associations that were available or existing, they wanted to speak with one voice. And that was headed or led by Mayor K. Raseroka in those years. And if we check on the roots of where it comes from, and I must acknowledge that even before, as much as I will acknowledge the source, most of the sources where I found this at the end but most of this was also presented to us in the early years by the late Claire Walker. So I must as well acknowledge her in the beginning, as much as I'll note it as well at the end. So in 1988 to 1998, there was an interactive network that have caused people to come together, influences, and they have events, and then to put together this unification of the association. And then in the early transforming influences, there was a Zeiman report that was commissioned by Silas. You recall, for those of you who don't know, that there were the two main associations that you may be aware of. And I'm going to touch on them as well. One of them is Silas. In 1987 to 1988, that Zeiman report was commissioned by Silas. And in the late 1980s, the resource centers were established, and that continued to have the LIWO in 1990, which is Library Information Workers Organization. That was formed. And the first, or not kind of first, the Silas president by then in the 1990s to 1992 was the late Professor Seth Manaka, who happened to also be my lecturer when I was at the University of Limpopo, as you heard from my brief bio. And he is the founder of the Department of Library Information Science at the University of Limpopo. So we just held, we just lost him in the early months of this year. And the first steps to unity that has taken place is to put together a National Education Policy Investigation, which is in short called NEPI, in 1990, between 91 and 1992. And as we go through, I need you to understand where our association comes from and the background history, because some of us, we know it's as it is now today. So a lot of work has been put before that, and hence I'm sharing with you all this. In 1992 to 95, there was transforming of our library information services, the coalition that happened. And then both the existing associations that were the biggest ones, LIASA and SAILIS. LIASA stands for African Library Association of South Africa, and SAILIS stands for South African Information Library. What did I say? South African Information and Library Information of South Africa. No, I'm missing the other I. I will remember it as we go on. And they had joint workshops and meetings. If I may say, LIASA was dominantly by Black people, and SAILIS was dominantly by white people by then. So in 1995, there was LISDESA, which is the LIS for Developing South Africa. And then in July 96, or between January 1995 to July 1996, then there was a steering committee that was put together to form ULIS, Unification of Library Information Services. So that was a non-aligned steering committee. And in addition to that, between July 96 to July 97, there was also ULIS 2. So there was ULIS 1 and ULIS 2. And the ULIS 2 was had a broader support group that was added to the steering committee. Later on, I'll also share with you some pictures that you have an idea of those steering committees and the broad support group. Then in July 1997, a constituent conference was held, and that's where LIASA was founded on the 10th of July, 1997. So in 1998, LIASA and SAILIS, they had to disband independently because now LIASA was founded. And then also Sally Trust was established. You'll remember that Sally Trust is still existing even today, and it keeps on sending out some call for papers for the librarians who have, for the one of the award that we have in LIASA is the Sally Trust one, where they're looking up for the lifetime achievement person. So that is one of the things that you might remember or know about Sally Trust. Now that's where the unification train began. Remember now LIASA has been formed. And then that is the train that Mera Soroka was trying to unify at the beginning. This is basically where LIASA comes from, the roots from which LIASA grew in the early 1990s. The resource centers that I was referring to that were established, the LIU, you'll remember the LIU that I alluded to, the NEPI, and the Translate, the Zyman report, and then in between, which I did not put all the information together. There was the CEPD for the LIS, there was the COLIS. Those are all the abbreviations. Some are for training and some are for talks about the coalition that I referred to. And then that was LIASA, as you can see, and CILIS as well, as I indicated to you, the two has to disband. And the LISDESA that we talked about the policy. And the Prof. Manaka being the president of CILIS. And in between as well, we had all this IMWG and ACTAG that has to do with ICT stuff. And then there was ULIS 1 and ULIS 2. And then where they formed the steering committee and the support, broad support group. So the NEPI report for 91 to 92, it was about the formulation of policy and decision-making in the LIS system. And so in partnership, they put together that policy, and then there was a statutory council, or the so-called board representing professional interests. And there was a representative of each user or community that was elected from the professional practitioners, represented through a professional body. And that can ring a bell to you because today we are talking about LIASA as a professional body. And also during the NEPI 91 to 92, the Translist coalition happened and the draft policy document was recommended. So then there was a LISDESA conference. I'm sure now you remember as I talk on these abbreviations. In January 1995, about 235 LIS workers had received a workshop and on LIS in developing South Africa. And that workshop, that's where it is concluded by having an executive summary that was co-signed, or that was signed by the two co-chairs. Remember, we had LIASA, we had CILIS. So the two chairs from CILIS is Arnold Lube and and the other president from LIASA was Arnold Kuzwal. They were both Arnold with different surnames anyway. So they had to sign this at the end of the workshop. They have to sign to say we are now together. But the attendance, as you can see, all the LIS workers were there. Then on the final day of the working group, it was proposed to address that we all have to talk or form a one voice organization, because there was LIASA, there was CILIS. Then a one voice organization was needed, and a small unaligned steering committee was formed and to manage the process. Remember, we are coming from different, they were coming from different associations and with different constitutions and all the laws and whatever. Then they have to come together to have one voice as one organization. Then from there as well, a 6-person committee was nominated just immediately after their meeting or after their workshop. And then it took over and it was named ULIS. That's where ULIS comes from, Unification of Library Information Science. So as you can see, I hope my screen is not blocking the writing there, because from my side it is. But these are the group that was editing behind the scene. They were all editing the documentations and whatever. I'm not sure if you are able to recognize some of them. Let me just see if I can move this one that side. Because as you can see, they were still young, as Claire said here, we all looked so young. Claire is this one. And you can notice, I'm sure you might notice who this is. Robert Moropa, and this was Hafi G, and this was Meke Rasaroka, and this was Prof. Manaka, and this was Elizabeth Robertson. She's still around. And this was Patience Maisela, and I'll talk about her as well as we go on. And this was Leila Vahad. And as I can recognize them so far, but these other 3 people and 4 people that I may not have their names by now. So on this one as well, we had Mayor Keira Saroka again, and Dato Kuzwayo, and this is Mayor Patience myself, and she since passed on as well. May her soul continue to rest in peace. Then we continued with the ULIS conference. By the way, I was at that conference as well. In that year of 1995, I attended the ULIS 1 and the ULIS 2. The ULIS 1 happened at the University of Pretoria, and the ULIS 2 happened at the University of the Witwatersrand in the education campus by then. So these are all the people that were on the ULIS conference at the leadership of the steering committee. And you can see our Honorable Thabo Mbeki there amongst the people, as much as you have noticed that Meke Rasroka and May Patience Maisela, amongst others. I'm just sharing, but you can see their names there, because there's Stenberg, Christine, and there's Blythe van Niekerk, and so on and so on. So Connie Price and so on. So you can see their names there. Now, behind the scene, while we didn't recognize or see what people are doing, these 4 people also were just putting together, working very hard towards the unification of one voice for us to have one association. So as you can see their names again, Datem Ropa and Merkei and Blythe and Connie were amongst them. So there was a time where voting came at the ULIS conference. And this is what happened. I'm sure you can't see me, I was somewhere there. So I was part of the conference though, but yeah, the voting happened. And also this was the broader group support together with the steering committee. Again, I've already shared with you some of the people here. You could tell who is who now, and as we carry on. And I'm recognizing one of the gentlemen who was one of my classmates, Carol Mafade. So this is when Professor Peter Law was taking ULIS forward with the broad support group. So he was then taking what transpired from the ULIS conference forward with the support group that I've just shown you in the previous slide. Then there was ULIS 2, the Constituent Conference in July 1997. And this is how it was looking. I still have a cap of ULIS 2 with that emblem that I received when I attended this conference. So, and here we see again Meke Raseroka and Shimon, and we also see Prof. Law and at the ULIS 2 conference. Again here, as you can see, these gentlemen are thinking deeply while they're working, and it's still some people that we might be familiar with, but they are no longer looking the same, because it's a long time ago. Robert Pierce on your extreme left, and Tommy Mate followed, and unfortunately, Claire couldn't recognize or kind of have a name, not necessarily recognize, but have a name, remember this gentleman in between Tommy Mate, who was one of our past LIASA presidents. You will also see that as I move on, and between him and Bill Bennett. So we couldn't have the name for this gentleman who were thinking deeply in a work group, trying to put together what is necessary for a one voice association. Now the voting goes on. It was burning issues now, as they keep on coming with the other issues which are burning, and then members have to vote. I'm sure you can recognize some of them here. And like I said, I'm sure I used to sit at the back there, who knows? But this is our own Lindin Klapo, who is based at UNISA. So she was amongst the voting people here at that ULIS conference. Now, after the votes, there was a voting name for that. And the new organization, they came up with these three names. LIASA, which was referring to Library Information Association of South Africa, and it means dawning, LIASA, dawning. The Xhosa people or so Onguni speaking people might even pronounce it very well. And then the second name that they came up with, remember they were still suggesting a new name for the organization after voting that, yes, we go for it. Yes, let's have one voice organization. So they then have to come up with a new name, not to use the LIASA, not to use the SILES. So the second name they came up with was called LISASA, or LISASA, Library and Information Services Association of South Africa, and which simply means still dawning. Then the third name they came up with was SALISA, which stands for South African Library and Information Services Association. That means remain behind. So let's see what happened after that. Then there was tea outside, and that time it was very cold. I was looking through these people here and I was checking where would I be, and I thought maybe that could be me. I just didn't know, because now Claire said here, red jackets were the in thing by then. As you can see, you can spot red jackets in between all across the delegates. So they were having the tea outside, brainstorming and, soothing what they've just had. And after the vote, waiting to see what would happen with the name and so on. And as you can see, Bob Wedgeworth and Ross Schiman and Leo Vogt were also busy hard at work, trying to go through the votes. Then their name came out from the three. And this was a toast for the new name, which was now adopted as LIASA, and that was on the 10th of July, 1997. So again, Professor Law was there to hand over after the first elections in 1998. These were the first LIASA elected people or members. And as you can see, we've got from the left side, Nico Ferreira, who used to work at UNISA. He's now retired. And the second one in white, it's Ellen Tice. When you were introducing myself or reading my bio, what's her name again? You said Tice. That's what I was pronouncing it before. I did not know it's Tice. So it's Ellen Tice. She is the executive director of the Stellenbosch University in the library. And the next woman next to Ellen, again, we could not get her name, and unfortunately. And then the one that followed it's Leila Vahad. You remember I showed you the steering team as well, steering committee. And look at how Tommy Mate was looking at that time as well. So these were the first elected LIASA members of LIASA committee. So by then, Professor Manaka in 1991 had the message in one of the journals that he wrote, and he said, South Africa, I quote, South Africa has entered a new era in history. Change is inevitable. The question which arises is, what type of change and contributions shall we, as information and knowledge professionals, make towards this change? Hence, the title of his presentation or his presidential address, he named it, The Moment Has Arrived. So after all this, remember he was the president of SILIS. After all that, he then wrote, The Moment Has Arrived. For us as LIS workers to be together, to be united. Some of the achievements that have been going on since after the unification, after the new association was formed, and this was all the achievements are actually associated or linked to LIASA since that period of 2001 to 2017. Some are still in existence, some continuing from where it started, and there are more now since 2017. Some of them are the library leadership development programs, which was from 2001 onwards. Some people have benefited from that. They used to go even to overseas, the Murchison Center, to kind of receive such training. And there's an increase, the National Council for Library Information Service Act 2001, that was also achieved by them. And the dark conditional grant for public community libraries, and we still have it up to date. And South African Public Libraries and Information Services Bill 2012. I'm not sure if it's still enacted, but I said I will check. By that time, up to 2017, it was still to be enacted. But for those who are in the public libraries, they will know much better. The intellectual property and copyright engagement nationally and internationally. So we started engaging all these robust issues of copyright and intellectual property, both nationally and internationally, because now the doors have opened.
Ms. Sanyolo, I'm sorry to interject, but I have to ask you to wrap up in 5 minutes, please.
Okay, thank you so much. I wanted to say you let me know if I'm okay. Thank you so much. 5 minutes. And then there's open access, digitization, data management, and there was LIS Transformation Charter, which we all know about or we must familiarize ourselves with, and the professional body status, that of the SAQA, which we are holding up to now. And then as LIASA, by then, we were able to host 2 international conferences, the IFLA conference in 2007 and in 2015. Now, LIASA in a nutshell. These are the LIASA past presidents. As we start from the bottom, after the name of the new association being LIASA, then Ms. Ellen Tice was our first president of LIASA, and she served for 2 terms since the 1998 to 2000, and then she continued to serve 2000 to 2002. And she was followed by Robert Moropa in 2002 to 2004. You can see the years. And Robert Moropa was followed by Tommy Mate, and in 2006 to 2008, and 2004 to 2006, and again 2006 to 2000, again 2 terms. And he was followed by Rachel More, who is in the office at the current moment. And Rachel More was followed by Naomi Hasbrook, and Naomi was followed by Ujala Satgo, and Ujala was followed by Sekhameti Mulawa, and Sekhameti was followed by Mandla Ntombela, and Mandla was followed by Nikki Kroster. So I'm not going to go through this. You know now what LIASA is all about. So that's where we are, that's what we aim to do. So, and also to say we do have these branches and interest groups. And as you are aware, the Mpumalanga one is kind of in abeyance. And in terms of interest groups, MAKE is also in abeyance as much as the others. There were 10, but you can see the list is getting smaller now. So I just want to introduce you to the current executive committee. As you may all be aware, the president, Nazim Hadi, based in the city of Cape Town, President-elect Charlie Molepo, based at the University of Free State. Our treasurer, Danny Malan, is based at the University of Pretoria, and myself based at UNISA as the secretary, and the PRO, Linda Ntaka, is based at the city of Cape Town as well. And we've got 2 additional members on the executive committee, Fatima Daris, based at UNISA, and Kikhumudito Puti, based at University of Free State. And in the office of the LIASA Act currently, we have our manager, Ms. Rachel More, and as you can see, she was also one of the past LIASA president. And we've got Lebogang Masalisa, our membership and operations coordinator, and we also have Apelelen Zimande, our training and development coordinator. For those of you who know where LIASA comes from in the office, you will realize that we used to have Anne-Marie, we used to have Kagiso, and now we are in this manner. And you can tap on who represent who. Now, LIASA is a professional body. I just quickly want to share with you what it means. And as you can see, it means any body of expert practitioners in an occupational field, and it includes an occupational body. Its purpose, amongst others, is to promote public understanding and trust in the profession and the pride in the profession or the association. And it also encourages social responsibility and accountability within the profession. And it promotes the protection of the public by the professional body from the malpractice. So for us to, as a professional librarian, you need to accumulate or have a minimum requirement that you need for you to be a professional librarian. You need to have be designated. For you to be designated as a professional librarian, you need to have the following educational qualification of either the 3 or 4 year bachelor of LIS, which is NQF 7 or 8, or a bachelor's degree plus a postgraduate diploma in LIS. And as a professional librarian, you need to accumulate a total of 20 CPD points over a 3-year cycle. That information is available on the website of LIASA. And of course, for each and every association to survive, or that train that we talked about, for it to continue with the coal or whatever it used to move, it needs a membership fee. And I'm sure by now you know that as an individual member of South Africa, you are entitled to pay up to 720, or you are expected to pay 720 per annum. And then it goes on. And as you can see, those who are not employed and those who are interns and so on, their amount is minimal, and it's still sitting at 310 per annum. And these are some of the things that you can do to join or to renew or to update. But once you register for 1 year, all you do is to renew annually on an annual basis, and you can pay using those EFT, or you can just call the office and they will be able to assist you. This is just a graph that I'm gonna pass. And some of the flagship for LIASA, South African Library Week, South African Librarians Day that we are highlighting today to celebrate, the AGM and the conference. Those are some of the highlights that we have. But today that we are also combining our celebration, that we are celebrating South African Librarians Day. This is something that has been culminated in, as it was a culmination era of different associations, as I've already alluded to. And now you understand where the 10th of July comes from. And now let us continue to celebrate this day of the 10th July to promote for information and share knowledge, powerful stories, and ensure that these stories are recorded, preserved, and accessible even to the future generations, not only for us. And this is where you can find LIASA based in Pretoria. And before I thank you again, I wanted to just highlight that all the information that is here and is found at the LIASA website. And also in the article that Claire has written under Growing Older with LIASA, a microcosm of radical transformation. And I thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ms. Sonyolo. Pardon me. Thank you so much for your comprehensive presentation and for taking us down the memory lane. I saw some of our colleagues sharing their vivid memories in their chat as they reminisce on the good old days that you just presented. Thank you so much for that presentation. We have now come to the dialogue part of our program, colleagues, and I would like to introduce my Leonard colleague who will be facilitating this part. And Ms. Diana Mashiane is an assistant director at the University of Free State with a demonstrated history of working in the library and information service in higher education. She is an author and researcher who has published in reputable academic journals and is an accredited facilitator. She holds a master's degree in information science from the University of South Africa, and she is currently pursuing a PhD at the same University of South Africa. She was a candidate for the Carnegie CPD program, enhancing librarians' ICT skills for research and enablement in African universities. She has presented papers at both local and international conferences. Her research interests include information literacy, information ethics, social media in libraries, inclusive education, and indigenous knowledge systems. Ms. Mashiane will introduce her guest. Over to you, Dina. Before Dina takes over, Karen, I see you have your hand up.
Yes, Chair. I just want to bring to everybody's attention, if you want to be designated as a professional librarian, it's not automatically. LIASA, on their website, they have a place where you can apply for the designation because they must authorize that your qualification is correct. You can't immediately be designated as a professional librarian. LIASA must approve it.
Yes. Okay. Thanks for that information. I suppose some of our colleagues were asking questions in the chat, but we can perhaps revisit that also during the Q&A session towards the end of the session. I see now Ms. Dina is on the platform. Let me hand over to you. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Chair. Good afternoon, colleagues. Mine is a very short task, and it's an honor for me to engage and facilitate a part of this session. To introduce our guest of honor or our guest speaker for this afternoon, the bio is quite brief as well, and it goes as follows. Dr. Siviwe Bangani is currently a director in the Unit of Research and Services at the Stellenbosch University, Library and Information Services. He completed his master's with cum laude. So wait until you hear more about Dr. Bangani. He holds a PhD from the University of South Africa. Dr. Bangani also received a Librarian of the Year award from LIASA in the year 2018. He has held leadership positions in LIASA as chair-elect at the Northwest branch and is now in the same position at the Western Cape branch. Dr. Siviwe is also a member of IFLA's Academic and Research Library section of IFLA. He's also an avid researcher. His research interests include community engagement, scholarly communications, and research data management. He has published widely in DHET approved journals internationally and also locally as well, and has spoken in international and national conferences. He is an author of 2 isiXhosa novels, Imbuzo, I'm not sure if I will be able to read this, Limbuso Zika Gaulayo and Iti Chalomkulu. You can correct me there, Dr. Bangane, if I might have pronounced the titles incorrectly. But those are the 2 publications, the books that he has contributed. And I was so excited when I think a few weeks ago when we received one of the titles that he published as we requested books from the National Library of South Africa. So we received one of his books that we will be donating at one of the schools that we are currently working on for our community engagement project. So colleagues, on that note, that is just our short bio with regards to Dr. Bangani. So this will be more of an engagement rather than an interview, as we will delve into and also learn on how Dr. Bangani has made an impact in the library and information services field. Dr. Bangani, good morning.
Good morning, Dee. Let me just say I was a bit worried, by the number of questions that you have there. I'm not sure if everybody will be able to engage. I do suspect you might be the one that asks the questions only.
Yeah, and for the sake of time as well, I think colleagues can also use the chats option as well, should they have anything that they need to ask or any stories that they will also like to share as well, because as much as Dr. Bangani, as much as you'll be sharing your powerful stories, I'm sure that there are people here on this platform that you might have impacted. So this, colleagues, is also your opportunity to share what you would like to share in terms of how Dr. Bangani has made an impact in your lives as individuals. To start off, Dr. Bangani, I need to get used to calling you Dr. Bangani because I'm used to calling you Mr. Sibiwe. But yeah, I'll get used to it.
You can call me either.
Okay.
Yeah.
To start off, would you tell us a bit about your journey as a librarian? How long have you been a librarian, and what actually inspired you to pursue a career in library information services?
Okay. My story is not really a complex one, nor do I think it's a very interesting one. It really is a journey of the majority of all professional librarians out there. I started in 2003. You'll count the years. I won't give you that number. It's clear. At the University of Cape Town, which is where I'm sitting right now, on a contract which was supposed to be 18 months. But then, of course, I wanted to make life difficult for them. So I ensured that, in terms of my performance, I performed quite well. I'm proud of, to say that. I would be here at 7 o'clock in the morning, actually, to start work without fail. After, I think, about 9 months or so, they then offered me a permanent position, which, of course, I accepted. I was here for 6 years. And then thereafter, I moved to CPUT as a manager. In fact, I started as a faculty librarian engineering. And then I think after 3 years or so, I then moved to Athlon to be the manager in the library. Then the nursing school, which is called Nico Malan, fell under CPUT. From there, of course, I moved to Northwest University as a manager. Initially as a manager, I think it was called Circulation and Information Services, or User Services and Information Services. I can't remember what exactly the title, but of course, it was Circulation and Information Services that were reporting to me. And then, of course, there was restructuring and I became manager, Information Services in Mafikeng. From there, I moved to my current position at Stellenbosch, which is the Director Research Services. In terms of really what inspired me, I wouldn't really say anything inspired me. Rather, it was encouragement. We had a guy in my village who goes to church with me as well. and he had just completed his degree in education. I had wanted to do law, but unfortunately we had about 2 or 3 people, you know, from my village who had done law and were struggling to get employment. So he suggested to me to say, you know, there are still very few Black people that have done professional librarianship. And when it comes to that, it's still in demand. So rather do this degree. And he had actually indicated that he was thinking of doing his diploma as well. He said, rather do this, because then in terms of opportunities, there will be plenty of them for you, especially as a Black person. So yeah, that's how it started, basically, yeah. I'm not sure if I answered everything that you had asked.
Yes, it's really for based on what you've just said now, if I can just sum that up, and to especially people that have just started in their careers, I would just say that dedication is key. Listening to Dr. Bangani, deliberating on how he grew, started from a very junior position, and now he's now a director of research at the University of Stellenbosch. So yeah.
Sorry, maybe just to kind of correct you a little bit there. Unlike most people, I didn't start as a library assistant or assistant librarian. Remember, it was an 18 months contract, so I was a subject librarian already. And you know, some of the people who had studied before me, like I remember Vuyo, I can't remember what his name now is, but she actually was one of the people that had mentored me when I was in my first year. You know, somebody that we could look up to, but she was in a library assistant position then because she was permanent. So they couldn't really apply for the job that was, you know, a contract. So in my case, I applied for that job because I didn't have a job in any case. So I would say I started really in a relatively senior position within the library, I must say.
Oh, great stuff.
Maybe if you are also looking for some interesting stories, on my first week when I came here, my first query, actually, I still remember it. It was about the cities and towns of England, those that have got less than 40,000 people, something along those lines, but I can't remember the exact number that they were looking for. And then Celia Walter, I'm sure some of you would know Celia. She was quite a good librarian, but she's retired now. She tried this query and couldn't really think, you know, how to solve it. And then she came to me and said, you just come, you know, from school. So perhaps you still remember in terms of reference material that should be used in terms of this query. I said to her, let's try the Gazetteer. And we tried the Gazetteer and we found the information. She then said, no, I should be the one that sends the information. Apparently it was the embassy that had asked it, for it, the embassy, that is the British embassy. So upon sending the information to them, this person offered me a scholarship to study MBA. But of course, you know, coming from a previously disadvantaged background, you know, the family and everything. So I thought it was important to work, you know, and ensure that I support my parents. So I chose not to accept that scholarship, unfortunately, but it was there on the table. First query, so scholarship.
just like that, first query, yeah. First stage. And I think it's something that we don't take really seriously, like an information that, you know, could have changed your life, could have changed your destiny. Maybe most of us wouldn't be knowing who Sibiwe is now. You could have been in, you know, another field, but yeah, I guess it was destiny that brought you to the field. In 2018, you became the National Librarian of the Year. Can you tell us a bit about that journey of becoming the National Librarian of the Year in 2018?
Okay, I don't want to really repeat what I've already said, but of course it's an award, you know, that looks at the whole, you know, journey up to the point. So I do think what was the advantage for me was having, you know, worked with the communities, collaborated, you know, with the communities to set up libraries in Northwest, as well as my, you know, publishing, because I was already publishing at that time. And the fact that I do consider myself, you know, as an activist for African languages. So I was able, you know, to actually, you know, indicate that to the panel, and they could see the work that I've done. And yeah, I do think that was what made them, you know, to give me the nod ahead of the other candidates. But of course, we had strong candidates, and I guess, you know, they had a very difficult choice to make, but I became the one. And I wanted to make the best of it, basically.
And you know, if I can just add, you through that award, I personally, I would say that you really motivated, you know, me and also my colleagues that I worked closely with at the Northwest University. And I'm not sure if it was, if there were any recipients from the Northwest prior that received this award, but it really inspired a lot of us. And what would you think, or what would you say were the highlights of you being the National Librarian of the Year? What did you accomplish, or what initiatives did you or are you proud of when you were the National Librarian of the Year?
I think, unlike most people, you know, when you get your prize money, you can decide whether to focus on personal development or, you know, to do a project, etc., etc. So unlike many people, I decided to plow back the money to the community. We set up, you know, a library at Koikoi. We also had an initiative where we bought some shoes, you know, for schools, primary school children. Seeing those children, you know, being happy and you know, accepting, you know, those shoes, it's something that will remain with me, you know, for the rest of my life. And I do consider, you know, those as the biggest, you know, achievements. Of course, also collaborating with the Faculty of Law, of course, in the library at Northwest University. It was also one of the biggest achievements, because previously the Faculty of Law would go to, do their own thing without involving the library. But now, you know, working on that, you know, I could say I'm the Librarian of the Year, and if we can please do this and that. And they were, you know, more keen to actually collaborate once I had that title than previously. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think collaborating with the faculties, especially when it comes to community engagement, it's a bit difficult until they see the impact of what the library is actually doing as far as community engagement is concerned.
Yeah.
So I think that is also one of the ways in which an area in which librarians can tap into to collaborate in terms of enhancing engaged scholarship. As you mentioned that you had accomplished quite a number of things. I'm just wondering, sitting and wondering here, if there were any challenges that you encountered, you know, if maybe there were more projects that you wanted to initiate or implement. Were there any challenges that you faced as the National Librarian of the Year in terms of the projects and the initiatives that you really wanted to implement?
Yes, definitely. You know, first of all, resources are always a challenge. One, you know, couldn't really do much with the money that I got. I could do, you know, the little that I could do. The other issue is balancing, you know, my work with what I would have liked to achieve. Though I received a lot of support, I must say, from Dr. Moyo, who I still consider to be one of the people who inspired me in many things. He is one of the people who I would say, you know, was God sent, because as people, you know, there are people that we meet that you think that, you know, there was no use of meeting this one, but with him, at least, you know, I can say he did manage to take my career to the next level. He had, you know, this trust in my ability and my capacity, more than actually I did. I remember one time he told me that, you know, Siviwe, you don't have masters. I didn't have masters, but all you need is the paper, because you are already operating like someone who has a PhD. So those things, you know, they actually encourage you as a person to say, you know, there's somebody who sees, you know, something good in you, somebody who trusts, you know, in you. So, you know, because of that, and also he also served as an inspiration, I must say, for me. But in terms of the challenges, really, it was the issue of enough resources, balancing, you know, the work with what I had wanted to achieve. So yeah, those were the challenges for me.
Yeah, that's true, and I can personally relate to that, because as librarians, we feel like we have so much to do in our communities. We can share a lot, but due to shortage of resources and also support as well, having those people that can, you know, be there, you know, get buy-in, especially from people that we report to, you know, that kind of a support goes a long way.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes. You know, we normally, especially when it comes to community, the role that libraries play in our communities, this narrative of motho ke motho ka batho, umuntu ngumuntu ka bantu, ubuntu. What does that mean to you as an individual and also as a librarian? What does ubuntu mean to you?
Interestingly, I've just, you know, published an article around this concept, but really to me, it's about interconnectedness, you know, of us as human beings, and the idea that we are defined by our relationships and interconnections with each other, and of course there are values that are related to Ubuntu, like compassion, empathy, you know, respect for each other. I think it's all the positive traits of humanity, basically. Mostly, you know, what differentiates us from animals. For example, if somebody does something, you know, let's say they kill somebody, we normally say that person doesn't have Ubuntu, which means we consider that person as more, you know, animalistic in terms of how he does things. We don't expect, you know, human beings to do certain things. So it's about those positive, you know, values that we associate with humanity.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think as you know, library and information services professionals, we have a lot to offer in terms of, you know, tapping into Ubuntu in terms of the services, you know, our facilities, our spaces. Are we diverse enough? Are we intrusive enough? Because as much as we want to engage our communities out there, we need to start where we are as librarians.
And in terms of how we relate to each other, how the haves relate to those that do not have, how the academic relates to the public librarians that tend not to have enough resources, etc., etc. Those are really, I would say, they are part of Ubuntu, where UCT would, give resources to University of Venda, Walter Sisulu, that do not have, as much resources as they are. So that really, for me, is also a demonstration of Ubuntu. There are many things, that as libraries we do that demonstrate Ubuntu, but I'm with you there to say that we can do much more in terms of even how we engage each other and understanding each other. If we are, defined by Ubuntu in our engagements, then I think we'll find each other, professionally and otherwise. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. And in line with that, I would say that in terms of community, it's basically community engagement is embedded in Ubuntu. And what I just need to know what basically, because I know you are passionate about community engagement. You have initiated a lot of projects. Even your PhD study focused on the role of libraries for community engagement as well. So where do you draw your inspiration from? What if you were to motivate people to engage their communities more, what would you say? Where do you draw your inspiration from?
For me, I draw my inspiration from my background. Growing up, I needed, that sort of support. So because of the fact that I saw that there was that need, in terms of myself, and also, we have a lot of kids, learners that have never seen a person, who completes university in their homes. And just by merely going to them, and assisting, they get to be interested, they get to know what a university is about. So I must say, for me, the source of inspiration has always been, my background, where I came from. And I think, those things, they can either build you or break you. You can either, because of the background, because of the challenges that were there in the villages, you can decide, to just give up on life and do whatever you want to do, or it can inspire you to want to do more. Having said that, I am now the first PhD from my village, and it's an achievement that I'm proud of. And those are the things that really, inspire me to say, I need to be the first to do this, I need to be the first to do that, etc., etc. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So it really, says a lot about where we come from, because if you know and you understand what it feels to lack something, then you would also understand or put yourself in the shoes of people that do not have certain things. And I guess it's upon us as not just librarians, but as individuals, as people, as human beings, to just demonstrate that principle of Ubuntu.
Certainly.
And Dr. Bangani, what advice can you give to librarians who are just starting their careers and who also want to make an impact, who would like to engage their communities more in an impactful manner? What advice can you give them?
The advice I would give is to collaborate. It's always very important to build social capital. Social capital is about, building meaningful networks, that you then utilize, for whatever purpose. So we should always try to, build that social capital within our libraries, beyond our libraries, in the communities. So as soon as you have those connections, with people, it becomes very easy for them to be able to identify projects for you sometimes that you can contribute to. We had a lot of people that would come to us and say, we heard that you did A, B, C, D in this school. Can you please assist us as well? These are the people that we normally talk to. If you remember the Koi Koi project,
Yes.
I mean, it was the teacher that we would normally speak to. She would come to our offices and all. And then, she was the one who actually said, please also come to my school. So it's always important to build social capital. Don't just sit in your corner. You must try to know as many people as possible within the field. Those relationships, those networks will be useful for you in the long run. I'm not sure if the noise that is behind me, you can hear it.
No, I can't. No, it's not.
You
audible.
can't.
No.
Yeah, it's good because I know that these days, these facilities, they tend to block it. So it's only me who can hear it. It's
Yes.
fine. That's good.
All right. It's true what you are saying in terms of collaboration, because what they say, two heads are better than one. It's easier to complete a task when you are working in a team rather than when you are working alone. And at the end of the day, no man is an island. We need people. We need that that sense of community for us to successfully make an impact in our small little corners.
Yeah, of course. For me, you cannot say you have community engagement without having the community to engage. So basically, you have to have the to have that. I mean, it's just an innate thing of community engagement. Collaboration is just part of it. You can't really even do it. Think of doing it if you are not able to have those meaningful networks, social networks that you use to actually succeed in whatever you are doing in community engagement. Yeah.
Dr. Mangani, you spoke about publishing, being an author earlier on. For as a source of motivation, what basically motivated you to share your knowledge through publications? What really aspired you to write? For someone out there, for our colleagues who are listening here, what is your what basically motivated you to write and to also share the love of writing and publishing? Because I think I'm one of the people that you really inspired to write academically, and I would like to thank you for that. But what really motivated you to share your knowledge through publications?
I would say, first of all, I've always thought that I would try to write. So it's something that's always been at the back of my mind. But in terms of us as librarians, remember that we work with researchers all the time.
Yes.
And we do assist them, in a lot of things. What I realized is that as you are assisting the researchers, you are also researching yourself. You have to know what you are talking about. So I started to think that we shouldn't really, be thinking of ourselves as research support, but we can always write, about how we support, the research. So basically to research about research, or even research about research support. So also, and I thought that, when you start to publish, they start now to look at you differently, because you are talking, from the experience, perspective. When you're talking about, peer review process, for example, they know that you understand exactly what you're talking about. Whereas, there was always a suspicion if you're a librarian and you've never really, done these things, there's always that suspicion that no, this one is not really. Even, these titles, we really need to study so that we get, these titles. This is what I always told you as well. To say, they should hear doctor this, they should hear professor this, and as soon as they hear that, their mindset changes. They think of somebody who's knowledgeable. Whereas, a dinner without even a title was always knowledgeable. But because they see a title, in front of your name, then, everything changes. So I think, assisting researchers every day was always, something that inspired me to start writing about mainly what I do. There was also, a nudge from the side of Dr. Moyo. I did talk about it, previously, to say this was somebody who also wanted to start writing, and he, encouraged me to also be part of that. And that's how we started. And also with Sabelo as well.
Yes, and yeah, I can personally attest to that. When you are writing, it's like you are speaking the same language as the academics.
Exactly.
You understand their frustrations. When you talk about APC, if you understand that, the challenge of having to pay an APC.
Yes,
You
yes.
basically understand their challenges, predatory publishing, you basically understand, and it will also, enhance the competency or the skills, research support that you're giving to these academics as well. And I think we also have so much to share as librarians. We are doing so much, in our small little corners. Why not share that? Why not, engage in closing the knowledge gap through publications?
And there is a lot of intellectual engagement actually that is happening in libraries. You look at the reports that are being written by librarians, and you are like, it would be very easy, to convert this thing into a publishable paper, basically. But because it's just a report, they just keep it, behind the scenes, and not really think, about also writing a paper out of it. So yeah, that intellectual engagement is there. It's a matter of putting it, to paper and just publishing it.
But maybe it's the fact that not everyone is a writer academically so, but I think that there needs to be, I don't know, interventions programs developed to enhance the skills, the academic writing skills of librarians, to give them that motivation to write, and also the skill as well to write academically.
Yes, I agreed with you, but let's also remember that writing is a skill. So you learn it through doing. You can be taught, all these things, but if you don't start doing it, then you won't be able to do it. I'll give you an example. When I write a novel, I normally just have an idea of how it's gonna start and how it's gonna end. And this is something that I can put in 3 pages, for example. But as soon as I start writing, then ideas start to flow, and you become, part of whatever we are writing. Basically, you become one of the characters, I must say, in the novel, and you start, behaving like that person, basically. And the more, you are into it, the more ideas come. It's not like when you start, you already know that I will start, and it's gonna be this big novel, etc., etc. But of course, if you keep on thinking about it and not writing, you will not come up with ideas because you're not writing. So that's, it's also when you are writing an academic paper, the first thing is to start writing. I always tell people that, you know, the best way to write is to start writing. And then that's how you learn how to write. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it also takes us back to collaboration, especially if you know, you are still new into this academic writing, collaborating, you know, having mentors, you know, that can guide you throughout the process really helps a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, somebody can even start small. For me, I started writing, you know, letters to the editors in newspapers, LIASA in touch. I was, you know, a contributor there quite a number of times. So just to, you know, start getting, you know, to the business of writing, basically.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And with you know, academic writing, it's still something that, you know, it will take time for librarians to fully you know, be regarded as you know, academic or publishers. And on that note, what changes or advancements would you like to see in the field? What would you say are the, you know, things that you would like to see happening, you know, in the field going forward?
One, I would like to see the, you know, the closing of the cleavages between the different sectors, and more intersectoral, you know, collaborations. This thing of, you know, having archives doing their own thing, libraries doing their own things, academic libraries doing their own things, public libraries doing their own things. We need to really close that gap. But of course, in terms of resources as well, because sometimes it is the issue of resources that is causing, you know, those gaps. You know, in all countries, for example, academic libraries are always, you know, more advanced in terms of technologies and everything else. But the gap is not as wide as it is in South Africa. And even within, you know, the sector itself, libraries in Cape Town are not the same as libraries, for example, in Northwest. So public libraries, that is. So we need to really, I wish, you know, we can see a few of that. We can see, you know, that everybody accesses, you know, the same resources, so that we can also close the gap, you know, between those who have and those who do not have. If, you know, LIASA as a professional body were to get more recognition, and possible, you know, work towards being a statutory body for all librarians, I do think that we'll see more equality between libraries in the different sectors and within the same sector. So yeah, I think those, it's just, you know, one, but it's something that I think, you know, can unpack a lot of things. As soon as, you know, as those gaps are closed, there will be more in terms of technological advancements, resources, etc., etc. Yeah.
Yeah, because, you know, it just seems as if we are all working in silos. It's like, you know, everyone is doing their own thing in their corners, you know, as, you know, academic, you know, school libraries, public libraries, and so forth. Mr. Bangani, are you still with us? I think we have lost Mr. Bangani. But we were almost at the end of our engagement. It seems as if we have lost him because he did mention that he had, you know, technological or connection challenges. But colleagues, on that note, I think we've come to the end of this. It was a fruitful engagement indeed. And I've really learned a lot, especially based on, you know, the progress that Dr. Bangani made throughout his career, the impact, the changes that he has made, the people that he has impacted as well. And I'm one of those people. So thank you so much. And I see there's quite an engagement on the chats as well. Unfortunately, since we have lost Dr. Bangane, seeing that we have the question and answer session, Chair, can you advise on that?
Thank you so much, Dina, and thanks for this dialogue I was following. And indeed, you proved that I was convinced for quite some time that I have a problem with the concentration span, but really this time around, I was following your discussion from the beginning up until now. So it could be that I should just maybe listen more of the discussions in this similar nature. But thank you so much for that. Indeed, you are correct. We are now at the Q&A session, and I just need to check if there are any questions from the chat. Colleagues, if you posted a question, please feel free to just raise your hand or just open your microphone and make your comment or question, please. Do we have any questions, comments from the dialogue that we just listened to? Ms. Make, you have your hand up, please proceed.
Thanks, Chairperson. And good afternoon, colleagues. My name is Mapifo Make, and I so wished Sivio was here. It's a comment from my side that we're grateful for the good work that he has done in terms of community engagements in the Mahikeng surroundings. Everywhere you go, they talk about Sivio. You go to the municipalities, they will ask you where Sivio is. You go to the archives, they all talk about Sivio. We are so grateful from Northwest University of the good work that you have done this side, and we look up to you guys, and we hope we will also be able to fill your shoes. My comment, like I said, I hope Sivio could have been here to dinner. We're talking about community engagement. I know you also have done a lot. I've seen that on LinkedIn. May you share with us the impact that your community engagement have done? It can be to a group of people, and it can be to an individual. Remember, when we talk of community engagement, they have to be sustainable and they have to be impactful to our communities. Do you have maybe 2 or 3 examples that you can share with us?
Just to be brief, I think it also the impact that we make also depends on how extensive the project or the initiative is. The bigger the initiative, the bigger the impact. That's what I've noticed or noted from experience. And I think working and collaborating with the faculties also assist in enhancing that impact, because as a library, we won't be working in silos, and that can also assist or initiate other types of collaborations. For instance, we are working on projects where we are not only working on assisting disadvantaged communities, but from those projects, we are going to write papers with the faculties as well. So this then becomes engaged scholarship, because we are not only, bridging those gaps or inequality gaps, but we are going to have outputs out of those projects as well. So I think the impact also depends on how extensive the project is. I'm not sure if that answers your questions, Memaki.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you so much, Dina, for that comprehensive response to the question. Colleagues, we can take just one more question or comment, then we go straight to the last item on the agenda, which is the vote of thanks.
Okay, my last comment and question, Chairperson. Dina, we're talking about open access publishing, and I know Civio is big on that, maybe yourself as well. So my concern is, how do we view the future of open access publishing in South African academic libraries and research institutions? The reason I'm asking this question is when you do your comparisons, I don't want to refer to the past, like when you do your comparison on the progress made so far in academic institutions and you look at previously disadvantaged institutions, you can see that there is quite a gap. So how do we carry the previously disadvantaged institutions to be on par with the institutions that were well-funded in the past 30 years? When you look at the research output, there is quite a gap. How do we make sure that we bridge that gap? Because open access publishing is a buzzword all over the world, even in South Africa.
I will try to answer that, but I think the initiatives that are now implemented, particularly, the transformative agreements that have been signed through SANLIC, are helping in terms of advancing open access publishing, and institutions that are finding ways to advance open access. For instance, in the University of the Free State, the library has implemented or initiated the Open Access Publishing Fund to enhance and to motivate researchers, scholars to publish open access, because that's also one of the ways that we can bridge the information gap in our communities. And unfortunately, Africa, it's still left behind in terms of open access, based on, the high prices of APCs, and Africa being one of, a developing continent. We still have a long way to go in terms of, getting to where we want to be in terms of open access publishing, based on, the socioeconomic disparities that we are facing as a continent. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, colleagues, for these discussions. And I'm pretty sure we can continue with the discussions in the chat and even via emails after this session. And I notice also some colleagues are even suggesting that we should have more of this. Please do take note, Provincial Chairperson, Mr. Nokwane, please do take note of such comments. And Ms. Dina, please convey these sentiments and heartwarming messages to Dr. Silviwe as well. Thank you so much. We have now come to the end of the session, but somebody is assigned to the responsibility of concluding, and that is Mr. Ugo Ukoli. Can I please invite you to the platform? Mr. Ukoli?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, thank you.
All right, good day, colleagues. And I'm really glad to be here. And basically, I'm Ugo Ukoli. I'm the PRO for the Northwest LIASA branch. And I could see there's something very interesting here that a whole lot of people stayed on. Like they had to stay on basically until the end. So I just want to thank the organizers. Thank you for the LIASA office for giving us this opportunity and giving us the slot, and for the presenters, Memo Khadi, Ms. Dina, Dr. Bangani. I thank you very much for availing yourself. Despite your busy schedules, you had to make out time and you stayed on. And for the attendees, like, you made it happen. For those who engaged, you made it all possible. I mean, making it quite an interactive one and having to stay on through all the basically a 2-hour session. I mean, I can thank you enough. So, I mean, as we can see, the profession is really going out there and there's a whole lot to dive in like what Dr. Bangani was saying, what really inspired him, where he came from. He never forgot his background. He had to push, which actually gave him all he needed to go for that. And I also like that aspect whereby he said, Dr. Moyo talked about, you don't have masters, but I mean, you basically already, you showing, what I say, you showing that vibes of a PhD holder already. So those are the things we need in the field. These are something that will pull us up. I mean, they are quite inspiring stories that someone also said in the comment that we should get involved with this. Like from time to time, maybe once a month, we should have such dialogue because these are things we need to hear. There's a whole lot of things, especially when Member Khadi was also giving us the history of LIASA, how it all started, how it all went down. Like I could see those pictures. You could see the enthusiasm in them for them to push through and make sure that we get to this. We have to make this happen. And it finally happened. And we are here today to carry on from that legacy. So I would like to say a very huge thank you to everybody and to all the librarians in South Africa as we keep pushing forward for a better organization. And I hope we would have a great one in much more future and having all these wonderful people around, both the attendees, the presenters and all that, having you guys backing us up, we would have something great. So thank you very much for your time. Despite your busy schedules, you were able to stay on. I can thank you enough. Thank you very much and do have a great day for ahead of you. Thank you.
Colleagues, that concludes the business of the day. Thank you so much, Mr. Ukoli. May you all have a lovely day. Goodbye for now.